J-Lo is the result of Black people allowing a non-Black person into Black spaces and them choosing to appropriate the culture rather than appreciate the culture. And I don't understand why we aren't seeing that. And this is in fact why we have to be careful of just inviting people to the cookout. And then when you couple that with the fact that she plays Selena and the Mexican fan base was also still mourning her death while also still wanting to celebrate her legacy, J-Lo started to believe that these fans were actually hers and based off of her ability to perform and to sing. And so now we have someone who can't accept the fact that they don't have the vocal ability to be the vocalist in which they desire to be, even though they're a really decently well actress. And instead of playing into the strengths, want to play into the culture in which they have appropriated for years, while also still wanting to take on the talent of someone they played damn near 20, 30 years ago. This is what happens when Black people allow a non-Black woman to come into these spaces and be the preference. She was that Latina with a fat ass. And then we've even come to learn that the music in which she made wasn't even fully her singing. And we wonder why she acts the way she do. It's because we allowed it for so long. One of the very weird things that happens when somebody finds out that I'm an atheist and they're extremely religious is that they will have this automatic response that the only reason why I am an atheist is because I want to sin. First, I don't even believe in sin. I do not believe in this idea that we were born to do bad things or we were born to do things against our own well-being. I believe in accountability. I believe that all actions have consequences. And so whether good or bad, you're going to experience a consequence from that action. It's the same way I don't like the idea of temptation where people are like, well, I was tempted and it happened because I was tempted. No, you did it because you wanted to, and you take accountability and responsibility for that and deal with the consequences of whatever you did. But it's always so interesting to me because why would you assume that? Out of all things you could assume, right? You could assume good things. You could assume like, well, Bria doesn't believe in a God because she looks around the world and that there are children dying and being bombed and there's just so many negative things happening. She doesn't believe in God because what God would allow for these things to happen. That's more in line with how I think. But to come up with this idea that I don't believe in God because I don't have a moral compass and I want to do just whatever I want to do says more about them than it will ever say about me. You don't love that man. You've just been with him for so long that you don't know how not to love him. It's not that you're deeply in love with him. You're not. You're over the relationship. You've been over the relationship. Actually, a lot of things he does gives you the ick. But you've been in the relationship for so long. You've loved him for so long that you don't know how to remove yourself from the situation. You're not fulfilled in the relationship. You don't actually truly even care about him. He goes against so many of the things that you believe in, the things you feel. When you think about your ideal man, he doesn't even compare. You've just loved him for so long that you don't know how not to. When you look at your future and you think about all the things you want, the desires, the lifestyle in which you have been working really hard to acquire, you keep wondering what the stumbling block is. Why can't you get to where you want to go? It's because you don't love him anymore. You just have loved him so long that you don't know how to not to. I'm not even trying to be an asshole, but certain trends are not for everybody. Speaking of that, why are you like 35 doing that whole age filter? Babe, who the fuck thinks that a 35-year-old looks like that? Like, I was born in 93. I'm 32. This is what a 32-year-old looks like. Babe, no filter. No filter. You want to know why? Because 30 isn't old. I don't understand why we feel the need to always participate in things. I see some of y'all doing this, and no hate. I promise there's no hate here. I just don't understand it. And then some of y'all are getting y'all's feelings hurt because people are telling you you look older than your age. How at some point we're going to have, as a society, get to the point to where we're okay with aging. I sent my new headshot to my grandmother. My headshot is gorgeous. I look great. I look nice and educated and mature and like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Sent it to my grandma. She did not respond to it. I ended up talking to her on the phone. She said, well, I didn't respond to your headshot because you look older. Then I am older. I was 25 when I left Houston. I'm 32 now. I am older. I have no problem looking my age. On top of the fact that I prefer, because I do know that sometimes people don't think I look my age, to look a wee bit older in my headshots because ageism is a thing and people try to play in your face when they don't think that you are of a certain age or have a certain maturity level. I need us to wrap this shit up. Anti-blackness is real, and while that girl is over there fighting for her life in them comments and posting affirmations, if you're in Atlanta and you're looking for a space for you to move your body with people who look like you, if you're looking for an inclusive space, that is owned by a black woman that is meant to bring the community together so that people of different sizes, different colors, and different ages can come together and move their bodies. I work at the Fitness Collective in Atlanta, and I teach bar and a heels class, but they also have yoga, they have Pilates, and they have a number of other fitness classes. So if you are looking for a space, it's off of Campbellton Road. It's in Fulton. If it's off of Campbellton Road, there are classes that are like throughout the day, and then there's classes on weekends. I don't teach on weekends. I only teach on Wednesdays. But again, if you're looking for a space that really was built to bring our community together for us to move and to become the best versions of ourselves, I highly recommend you at least looking us up. And if you aren't able to take a class physically, some of the classes are virtual. Like I teach that bar class. It's also a hybrid class. So you can come in person and you can do it online. It's a 30-minute class. We get in there, I work it out of you, and we get out, right? No, we don't do that over here. Everybody's body needs movement. Everybody's body deserves to be in spaces to where they are seen and they are heard. And if you think otherwise, you probably should not be a fucking instructor. Just saying.
Smarter than me because you got degrees? Yes.
I have a BFA in graphic design, a BA in dance. I will have my MBA this upcoming May. And one of the things I have learned is how people just don't take fucking education seriously at all when they are not one of those people who have had to go through the process of getting it, right? One of my clients told me that the biggest thing about grad school is being able to be resilient and be able to be persistent and get through it. Because when you are an active working person and going to school, it becomes a very hard thing. In me saying that, my graphic design degree required not only for me to take physical art classes. So I had to mix paints in order to be able to understand color theory. I also had to take graphic design classes, marketing classes, theology classes, sociology classes, science classes, math classes, a theology class where we dissected the Bible, and that's where I learned about fundamentalists versus contextualists. A fundamentalist reads the Bible for exactly what it is, and it does not change. Contextualists understand that the Bible was written during a very specific time, and that it must adapt and grow with the people, that the word of God is true, and the essence of God is there, but sometimes people will throw in things because it was intentional to be able to oppress certain types of people. That's the difference. That's the reason why the Christians be fighting, because there's two different things happening, right? I would not learn that if it wasn't for school. But you also have to go through school and you learn, like in my specific program, I learned how to code. I learned how to build websites from scratch. I learned marketing and branding. I learned how to relate to audiences and be able to understand who my target demographic is and how do I create things that would draw in their eye. I learned the understanding of balance when it comes to graphic design. I understand how to draw people's eye in. I understand what colors to use to get across what messages. I understand how to use music. That was my dance degree, right? How to use music to tell stories. How do you tell stories without having to use words? I learned all these things in undergrad, right? What I also had to do is I took between 6 to 10 history classes during my undergrad education. And because of that, I had to learn about the not only the art, but what was happening during the times, because you cannot understand art if you're not understanding what is happening in the world. You learn a lot of history, and people don't realize that, because even because of how this world has functioned historically, art is inherently political, because there were certain points, especially in European art, where the church ruled the government. And so people, specifically men, were the only ones allowed to create art. On top of that, because the church ruled, only religious art was allowed to be created in public spaces. Secular art was not allowed. It was not allowed. And so even with that, you were only allowed to create certain types of religious art. So when you have systems which does not allow for women, children, people of color to produce art, it reflects in how we see European art. We go and we look at all these great European artists, and you wonder why so many of them are white men. That is why. Because patriarchy was at a foot, right? Religious propaganda was afoot. Because you have to also remember that a lot of these people could not read. Most people were illiterate. That's why the public school system is so important. Because if you cannot read things for yourself, you have to take people's word for it. This is why we built the systems that we built. Because it's responsible. It's a responsibility to society for people to be able to contribute their ideas of different backgrounds and ethnicities and nationalities and religions and just lived experiences. School does make you smarter than people. I would not know the things that I know had I not gone to school. I'm getting my MBA, and right now they are having to change the criteria to get your MBA because it is changing that fast.